Good morning. Thank you for that introduction, Lynn. Yes, my name is Hattie Tate, and I am from Oakland, California. I am blessed that not only am I from Oakland, but I grew up in Oakland, and I graduated from the public school system in the city of Oakland. It is important as an educator at the times that we're in that we live, work, and play where our children are attempting to do the same thing. It is important that we understand the challenges that young people are having are challenges that we've already survived, we've already overcame, and we know exactly what they need to do to get there. I'd like to start today with a moment of silence for all the loss that we've suffered since the last time we gathered as ASFA. Loss in our nation, loss in our world, lost loved ones, lost jobs, lost faith, lost stamina, lost motivation, lost morale. Thank you. Now let that go. Now I need you to help me celebrate our success. You see, I believe in a power that's bigger than me. And with that power that's bigger than me, I know that I can do all things. That same power is invested in you. So I'd like for you now to give a round of applause for yourself, because we did this. We made it through the pandemic. We made it through January 6th. So give yourselves a round of applause. Tell your neighbor, welcome to success. We are 50 years strong, and we're only getting started. We're just getting started. We got lives and loved ones coming behind us to carry this work forward. We know that it is unionized labor that built America. It is the work that we do in schools that's going to sustain us and carry us forward. We're heroes. We keep showing up every day, every year to educate America's youth against all odds. It doesn't matter what happens on the news. It doesn't matter what happens in the neighborhood. We continue to grow strong. There's always a challenge in everything that we do. And all of you here that were here earlier, I'd like for you now to turn and let's give a warm round of applause to the person that just entered the room, that gentleman over there. Welcome to success, sir. We're so glad you made it. Welcome to success. I don't think I got his attention. Can you get his attention? Welcome to success. We're so glad you made it. Here's why. We often, when a person enters a room late, we punish them, we penalize them, we judge them, we criticize them. But guess what? The person that got here late worked the hardest to get here. That's why you applaud them. Applaud the person that arrives late without judgment, without preconceived notions, because they worked the hardest. Absolutely. For whatever the reason, it doesn't matter the reason. The rest of us had an easy arrival, okay? So even in our schools, we need to be aware of that. As an administrator, I've worked coordinated services for justice-involved youth for 11 years, high school principal for 10 years, CASA board member, executive council member, youth diversion and reentry strategist, a grantee with our newly created Department of Violence Prevention in the city of Oakland, community resource coordinator. And so when I entered education, I came to help teachers, and I've done a lot in getting there. I actually gained success with the team that I'm about to introduce to you. Right now, I'd like to welcome to the stage our Stanford University professor, Walton, who leads our research. Alicia Mitchell, the Division Director from the Alameda County Probation Department, and our Research Coordinator, Anmol. The funny thing about this, in spite of the fact that over my lifetime, somehow I'm less than 69, I have 69 years of experience and working, and I think it's primarily because as administrators, we do our duty, we do double duty, and we do triple duty. And so we gain tons of experience in managing the lives of young people in all these double, triple roles that we play to run schools. I can't complain because I was never alone. I've had many life coaches, mentors, and many people who simply believed in my success and who taught me to always bring my best self. And I've learned that's the same thing that our justice-involved youth need. Justice-involved youth are children who are involved through general neglect, on the child welfare side, foster youth. They have not committed any delinquent act. Then the other side of justice-involved youth are those that do commit delinquency. Those youth that move from some form of general neglect to all of a sudden, their boundaries of limitation have allowed them to get out and commit a delinquent act. Well, guess what? They need the same thing I got for success. They need one person to believe in them. As administrators and educators in America, it is our duty to believe in them and believe in the teachers that we depend on to teach them. After 25 years of work, I've come to the frightening conclusion. You ready for the slide? The slide, the quote, please. Thank you. Apologies, I had to clear the air a little bit. As an administrator, I've learned that my job is to get in trouble and fix it. So we had some technical difficulties, as I would expect. As an administrator, there's always something that's gonna happen. Okay, I've come to the frightening conclusion that I am the decisive element. It is my personal approach that creates the climate. It is my daily mood that makes the weather. I possess tremendous power to make life miserable or joyous. I can be a tool of torture or an instrument of inspiration. I can humiliate, humor, hurt, or heal. In all situations, it is my response that decides whether a crisis is escalated or de-escalated, and a person is humanized or dehumanized. If we treat people as they are, we make them worse. If we treat people as they ought to be, we help them become what they are capable of becoming. The interesting thing is, this is a quote I encountered and learned and loved 25 years ago. And here today, 26 years later, I still wake up with this emotion, this feeling, as I go to do my job. So, as we move out from this conference, this convention, greet that teacher who's not on track with welcome to success. The student who is returning from detention, which is the highest level of punishment we can give a young person in America, say to that young person, I have a plan for your success. It is our job as administrators to design success for not just ourselves, but for the teachers and students. So again, I want to say welcome to success to you, and I applaud what you've done. I'd like to celebrate a few people in the room today that helped me reach the success I have. Wendy, Florida, Nia, Cynthia, Ernie, Lynn, Scott, Nick, Jack, as well as my California colleagues, Lauren, Donis, and Maura, who all lead by example. But what impresses me about all the people I named, they lead by their success. At this time, I'd like to give my team an opportunity to introduce themselves. Let's start with Alicia.
Good morning. My name is Alicia Mitchell. I am a division director at Alameda County Probation Department. I've been with the department for 14 years, currently with the role of responsibility with oversight of our community supervision units as well as our transition center, including our SB 1004 and transitional age youth programs. I've spent a lot of time of my career in working on reentry matters, working with Ms. Tate for at least 7 of those years, and I really have come to understand that connection with the clients is super important. I spent a lot of time in supervision, and I supervised a gender-specific all-girls caseload. And one thing, if you work with girls, you know they're very relational. And me being able to establish connection and relationship with my clients helped me gain success, help them gain success, right? And minimize their time that they had to spend on probation and increase the likelihood that they wouldn't return. So for me, this is a really important program that gives us opportunity to connect with the students and increase their success.
Okay, Anmol.
Hi everybody, my name is Anmol Gupta. I'm the research coordinator on this project where I work on implementation and evaluation of the intervention with our district partners across the country. This project is really important to me and near and dear to my heart as it's youth developed, really centers the voices and choices of the students themselves in the actual intervention program, which we'll hear a little bit more about.
Thank you. And Dr. Greg.
My name's Greg Walton, and I'm a professor of psychology at Stanford. But the most important thing, I think, to say is that I have had the pleasure and the opportunity to learn from Hattie for the past 8 years and to be introduced to her work and to the kids that she serves and the teachers who she serves. And I'm just deeply grateful and honored to have had that opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, so now if we could start, I'm going to turn the movement of our presentation over to Anmol.
So the origin and development of this project and the progress of this project is in partnership with students and teachers to help them reach this full potential. It's a relationship-orienting intervention that helps to focus both the student and the teacher to a positive relationship with one another. This is a slide that basically illustrates our community-based organization partners on the far right, as well as our Stanford, obviously, partner, Alicia representing our Alameda County Probation Department, and then several school districts on the left side that we're fortunate to partner with on this project.
Okay, so I'm here to just share a little bit about how we plan for reentry in Alameda County and kind of give you an understanding of why this program fits into our goals as probation. So for Alameda County, planning for reentry starts when the youth comes in the door. As soon as we have them in our care, we want to start thinking about how they're going to reenter the community, and we do that through we reach out to our partners. We have a transition center, and we reach out to our partners. We have collaborations with education programs, public health, behavioral health care services, and community-based organizations. So we reach out to our initial partners and give them the information, hey, this youth has come into our custody. Is there anything that exists right now that we need to focus on to help them be successful when they come back into the community? And we start that as soon as they walk in the door. That's really important because sometimes we don't have a lot of time. Youth can be with us from 48 to 72 hours, or as long as our average stay is about 132 days. So we come in, we try and find out. We are able to then start working on reentry planning. What things do we need to put in place? What services do they need so they can be successful? And we customize service plans. So we make sure that each youth and their needs are considered and addressed specifically. We also work as they are in custody with us. We continue that collaboration. We meet about the youth. We have care coordination meetings that we kind of see how is the youth progressing, what things are coming up, how are we learning more about this young person so that we can make sure they have success. And we create a plan so that when they go back in the community, the youth, their family, and the partners that we connect them with know what is necessary. That is done with warm handoffs. So as we start to identify services that are necessary for the youth to return to the community, we start connecting with those agencies and saying, hey, we have a youth that's gonna be coming. Can we get to know more about what you provide and what you offer? And then can we provide that warm handoff so that the youth knows that we're connected to you and that they're connected to us and that we're going to collaborate on their success. We also want to make sure that we have a continuity of care, the things that we train while they're in custody. We work on cognitive interventions while they're there to kind of help address their thinking patterns and how they perceive things. And when we start teaching them tools and skills to make change behavior, then we want to be able to make sure that the programs that we're referring them to have consistency and also uphold those values so that the youth can still have a continuity of care when they return to the community. And we really do that through collaboration. Like, it's important for us to have partners to make sure that we are all working together for the youth success because, as they say, it takes a village, right? And then we intensify when the youth is getting ready for release. So as we're starting to build these plans and work through these services and connect with partners, we take our time while the youth is in custody, but then when it's time for them to get released, we intensify those things. We make more solid connections. We make sure that services are in place and the youth is going to return to success. And that's through interagency collaboration.
So I'd like to add to that, what Alicia so graciously shared with you is the information that caused us to be selected as the top re-entry releasing agency partnership out of 700 counties across our nation. That was in 2014. It was at that time that I joined this partnership as educator, and as an educator, administrator, we're looking for three things: grades, attendance, and an attitude for learning. And so bringing that work into partnership with them is how we've created success. We help them do things like break down credits so they're incremental. And so when a young person is in detention, one of the big reasons they don't come out happy to see us is because in detention, they have people they call auntie, they have people they call uncle, they have people they call grandma, grandpa. They have warmth that we are not providing out here. As a result of that, in Alameda County, we came up with the term warm handoff. It must be warm. You must know about this kid. You must know the needs of this student when we send them back to you. He's not just gonna show up on a day and the principal is not expecting him. The principal is notified in advance. The message I like to send is, please join me in welcoming our student back to our schools. I am available for a welcome circle to help you get him on track, and I'll bring the plan for his success. I'd like to talk a little bit about Oakland. So in Oakland, we believe in taking care of our own. And so we have been blessed to have two measures voted by taxpayers where we get millions of dollars to do services for youth that get in trouble. Part of those funds pay for my position and pays for my work. We have a newly established Department of Violence Prevention because we weren't able to focus in and get a grip as well as we wanted to. As a result of that, we now have a partnership with Oakland Unified where I will be able to work and really work up close with schools with life coaches on campus who are placed there to work with students that are justice involved. So again, our whole theme is around success and partnership with Alameda County Office of Education and the other county agencies, mental health as well, to create success.
And I just want to add, the thing that we appreciate about our partnership with Oakland is we have 17 other school districts in Alameda County, and Oakland Unified School District really saw this as something that they wanted to invest in. They provided a position, and Hattie has been instrumental in not only having the youth who return to Oakland have success, but in helping the other agency that we partner with is our county education office in building their capacity to be able to support the students that aren't returning to Oakland. It's like 43.8% that return to Oakland, so almost 50% of our students go back to Oakland, but she has also, Oakland Unified has also supported the other districts in helping their students have success as well.
Thank you, Alicia. So yes, the majority of the students in our county that get in trouble come from our city. And remember, Oakland takes care of its own. So we voted 2 measures over a 20-year period where we collect from property taxes funds to fund not just our police, law enforcement services, and the fire department, but community services that help transform the lives of our youth and families. So what you're looking at now is my part of the plan for reentry. I have a family that's arrived at the releasing center to meet their young person that's been detained. I am working with them on providing with this family the information of attendance, grades, and informing them of any discipline that took place at school that they're not aware of. It's a perfect moment for me to set the tone of what you expect when they get back to school. We all measure success, and it's amazing to me that we haven't thought about that. Even in the justice system, the judge, the probation officers, they measure success by attendance, suspensions, and academic performance. So why are we not working in this manner? This family brought many loved ones. I think there may have been a minister, a pastor with them, and before the student came out, I said to them, welcome to success. I'm here to help you plan for your student success. At this point, I've had parents break down crying. I've had single mothers say, nobody has ever talked to me about a plan for success for my child. I've had grandfathers and fathers leave the room because, you know, men don't really cry in public. But this point of reentry is a key emotional point to create some social-emotional wellness and a social belonging to prepare them for what you have for them at school. Next slide. This is the wonderful Alameda County Juvenile Justice Center. And again, we've worked hard in Alameda County to code switch and to move from language that penalizes and criminalizes to other terms. So I'm still working with some families and some adults to understand youth don't go to jail. Adults go to jail. Youth go to a detention center because they're kids, because the part of their brain that makes good decisions is not fully developed. And let me tell you, when they're inside, there are people that are so warm and kind to them, and I understand why they only earn credits when they're in custody, because they need that same warmth, that same welcome when they walk onto our school campuses. They need somebody that believes in their success. Next slide. In the Alameda County Juvenile Justice Center, there's a total capacity of 360 children. Average expenditure is $1,300. For 15 days, it's $20,000. Nationwide, there's, can you just go back? There's about 60,000 youth detained each day, and the average expenditure is $588, and 15 days is about $8,000. And so there's funds that we must direct towards the education, the transformation, the social-emotional wellness of our students when they're in custody. We can't wait for them to send them to us when they're traumatized and expect us at the school to have all the answers. And so those are areas that AFSCA can help us make sure that the funds that are needed to transform lives are going to all the places we need them to. Next slide. So Castlemont High School is the same high school that 50 years ago I graduated from. So I am celebrating this 50 years strong with this union. And I feel great. I'm thankful for the success. And I feel the success that's going to blossom and bloom from this 50 years strong when we leave here. Making sure we're telling our teachers, our custodians, our support staff, we are 50 years strong and building success. So celebrate yourselves. So our total enrollment is low. It's only 35,000 students. We just got up to be able to spend 16,000, I think in 2019 with our newest governor. He's increased the funding to education. So for those of you that track numbers, we're no longer 47, we're 30. Next slide. This is where I'd like to turn it over to Greg to talk about our team and how we develop.
So as I said, I'm so deeply grateful to be part of this team and to have had the opportunity to work with and learn from Hattie over the past 8 years. This has been an incredibly rich and rewarding experience for me and for many others. This team is comprised of a number of different social psychologists with interest in students' experiences in school, their experiences of belonging, interest in bias and how bias functions and how we can prevent bias from harming the outcomes of kids, and from a number of young people, young researchers, young teachers, people with education backgrounds coming together to do this work. So Jason Akanafua here, who's depicted as a professor of psychology at UC Berkeley. He was a student, graduate student of my colleague Jennifer Eberhardt and myself, and has interest in school discipline and school discipline outcomes. Nikki Tagnazi is our program manager and partnership manager. She's depicted here. And I would just call one other person on the bottom. Katie Remington Cunningham is a former teacher who now works in Minnesota with justice-involved youth around research. So let me just say, let me back up slightly. Let me just say, when I first was introduced to this problem, Hattie brought me to the Transition Center and brought our team to the Transition Center. It was 2014, and I went into that room that she showed you earlier. I have a son who was born 2 weeks earlier, so I had a son at home named Oliver. He's 2 weeks old, and I come into that room, and one of the things that I hear is that if you are a kid in the detention facility and you act out, a punishment can be that a visit from a parent and guardian might be a no-contact visit. That is, you might not be able to get a hug from your mom or your dad. And like that hit me real hard with a 2-week-old at home. And I looked at that and I just felt we gotta do something to support these kids and to extend the love that Hattie shows to every room that she comes into and help spread that through our schools, through our detention facilities, especially for those kids who are most at risk of not receiving that love. So we then began with an extensive 15-month process to understand and to learn and to listen. We worked very closely with youth organizations like ABASI here in Youth Uprising. We asked kids in this community and kids who had friends who had gone through detention what their story was, what happened when you came back to school, what were you hopeful for, what were you fearful of, what kind of relationships did you have, what did you worry about in your relationships, how did you interact with other students, how did you interact with teachers, how did people receive you? And the product of that intensive 15-month listening process is the intervention that I want to describe to you today and illustrate for you how it works. I'll just begin by showing you a brief video that Stanford created that depicts this, and then I'll dive into some more details. Can you guys make this play? Okay. Adolescents face many, many different kinds of challenges. There's trauma, there's basic needs, there's academic challenges, there's instability in home lives and neighborhood circumstances. But a strong, trusting relationship with an adult, it's not a panacea, but it's a foundation.
We are trying to understand what happens when children try to go back to school. So they've been in the juvenile justice system. They're trying to return to a traditional school. We were trying to think as social psychologists about ways to intervene so that more students can complete the high school diploma.
We elevated kids' voices. We asked them about their goals and values, who they are as a person, and what they would want an adult in school to know about them. We asked kids to nominate who might be an adult in school who could make a difference for them, and then we shared that information with that educator. We were trying to orient the child towards a positive relationship with that person, and that adult towards a positive relationship with that kid.
A lot of that has to do with building positive adult relationships where students feel protected, listened to, cared for, and heard. And so all that feeds into a sense of belongingness and feeling like this is where I can be successful. Someone here cares for me, someone here is guiding me, someone here is concerned about my success.
What you're trying to do is help teachers to see a student and not just a kid who is justice involved. We're not trying to reduce bias. We're trying to sort of think about the ways in which bias might operate and then making bias less likely, taking it offline, so to speak.
It's focused on building a relationship between the person responsible for the academic learning and the learner. While educators have worked in a system that has failed youth, that has failed them, and sometimes seen in our society as a failing system, nobody signs up every day to go to work and fail. And so sometimes you actually inspire and motivate adults to bring their best self to the success of one student.
In the control condition, 69% of youth recidivated within that period by the end of the next full academic semester, and that is a tragic and sobering statistic. In the treatment condition, where the letter went to the adult, and we tried to reorient the adult to see this person as a child, not a criminal, then the number was just 29%. It was a 40 percentage point reduction.
We are really eager to try to understand the boundaries of this. What can we do to actually improve it and to expand it so children can have a better transition and ultimately to have a better life.
Okay, so we call this a relationship orienting intervention because the goal, as I said, is to orient both the student and an adult of their choosing towards a positive relationship with each other where they can carry out their roles. This is a process in which from educators we're going to seek to elicit their best educator self, the reason why you went into education, the impact that you want to have on kids, especially the kids who face the greatest challenges. How can you be that person in service of and in relationship to a child who is in need, rather than allowing biases that might creep in that we're all aware of, pollute and affect that relationship that you're going to have. For students, we want them to see that challenges in reentry are normal, that's going to happen, that can be hard, but that improvement is possible. We want them to think about the real and true and authentic reasons why they value school, what school can do for them to help them become the kind of person that they want to be, to have the kind of impact, the positive impact they can have on their communities, their families. And we want to help them begin to build confidence in their ability to build positive relationships with adults that can make a difference for them. So altogether, this is a very intentional and structured a practice. The goal is to elevate the voices of students who are in reentry in introducing themselves and their goals and values to an adult that they have chosen in school. As we understood this system, we saw that there was a lot of work done on the handoff, on enrolling kids in school, but there hadn't been the specific focus on the concrete relationship between the child and an individual educator in school who could make a difference for them. That relationship is the foundation of learning and development. So here's one of the kinds of stories that we developed in our pilot process that we then shared with students as part of the practice.
Story 1.
I knew that coming back from juvie was going to be hard. Sometimes it felt like if I made one wrong step, I'd be right back in jail. I knew I never wanted that. I needed to find a way to do better in school, but it seemed so hard to catch up. I was so far behind, and I was pretty mad at the system. After I got out, I talked to my neighbor. He had been to juvie too, but he still graduated. I thought things hadn't been bad for him, but he told me that he struggled too, especially at first. He said things started getting better when he talked to his math teacher, Miss C. She got that he was trying. Later, she helped him get a job and worked with him so he could catch up in her class. When I thought about myself and what kind of person I wanted to be, I realized I needed a diploma to get there. Oh, and I also cared a lot about being a positive role model for my younger sister. She's 10. I used to not get along with my teachers, but I decided to make more of an effort. Some of my teachers didn't seem to listen, but eventually I found someone I could trust and talk about things I care about. They helped me a lot, and I was able to raise some of my grades. So now I'm a senior, and I'm walking graduation in spring. My mom is so proud of me. So is my sister, and I'm proud of the progress that I made.
12th grade student.
So you see, this student is modeling challenges. This is not just easy sailing. This is hard. He's modeling how thinking about the real value that school can have is important. He's modeling how developing a relationship with a teacher or another educator can make a difference, and he's showing the impact that can have for him. There's other stories. I'm gonna skip this story here in the interest of time.
Story 3.
At the end of the process, what we do is we ask kids, who is an adult in school who you don't yet have that kind of relationship with, but you think you could benefit from, who could give you that support. That could be a teacher, but it could be an assistant principal, it could be a coach, it could be a counselor, it could be a custodian, just some adult in school. We consider them all educators. They're all part of the education community. What would you want that person to know about who you are as a person, your goals and values, and what would you want that person to know about the challenges that you face that they might be able to make a difference in? That's the end, what we see here. And then that content gets populated into this letter. So it's addressed to the teacher by name, like Dear Mr. Smith, Dear Miss Castro. And the content comes right in. And the letter is a single-page letter. It's a one-page letter, but it's very carefully written to highlight key themes. So it emphasizes, first, that this student is taking active steps to improve their transition. They've demonstrated a commitment. Second, it emphasizes the importance of positive relationships with adults for all kids in school, but especially kids who are facing particular challenges. It says that the student chose you specifically. This student chose you to be that adult for them. It anticipates and normalizes difficulties. It's not saying it's always going to be easy. It's real about that. It's authentic. There's going to be good days and there's going to be bad days. It emphasizes the opportunity to support the child and support them in their relationships with others in school. It emphasizes the opportunity to support their relationships with other educators, as I said. It encourages that adult to initiate that relationship promptly. And then very importantly, it is honorific to the adult. Thank you for your work. You are on the front lines for all of our kids. Like, basically, you're the person whose work it is that will make a difference for this child. What was the consequence of this? The primary outcome we looked at is the percentage of kids who got sent back to juvenile detention by the end of the next full academic term. And what you see is that in the control condition, when the students completed an irrelevant exercise around study skills, 69% of children recidivated. That number was not meaningfully reduced when kids did that exercise, but the letter didn't go to the adult. So the kids are starting to think about positive relationships with adults, but we haven't fused the connection. We haven't brought the teacher into that loop. But when that letter goes to that educator, it makes all the difference. And we see a similar improvement on other outcomes, including school disciplinary citations in particular, where there's a sharp reduction in the number of citations kids receive over the same period when that letter goes to an adult. And when we dig further and we ask teachers to think about this circumstance, we see the total transformation in how teachers are making sense of a justice-involved youth. So these are data from scenario studies where we ask teachers to imagine the circumstance. We either give them the letter or we don't give them the letter. And you see that when you give the teacher the letter, they see the student as more committed to school. They then feel more committed to the student. They feel more positively about the student entering their class. They feel more love, trust, hope, and respect for the student. They anticipate more success for the student in class, in school, and even in life. And they're less likely to view the student as a troublemaker, for example, if he does something like falls asleep in class one day. And they're less likely to express curiosity about the crime that the student committed. I think this is really important. Here's an example of this from the control condition. This is a teacher who didn't receive the letter, and she says, "I'd be apprehensive. I'm unfamiliar with his history. What led him being in juvenile detention in the first place, and how long was he in custody? Did he commit a violent crime? Will he have outbursts? Will he be disruptive?" That's not going to be a productive lens. If you're a classroom teacher, you're teaching English, that's not going to be helpful as you're interacting with that student. We got to get that offline. We got to get you back to that educator self, that welcoming success attitude. Teachers with the letter then are more willing to play a variety of the kinds of powerful mentoring roles that we know make a difference for kids. They're more likely to say they'd be eager to be a guide for the student, eager to be an advocate for the student, eager to be a role model for the student. Here's one teacher who illustrates this transformation. She says, "First thoughts, in complete honesty, would be, oh great, why me? I think about what problems he may add to my class. That's often where we begin, and let's be real. But as I read more of the letter and see that this student chose me to be his mentor confidant, I'm immediately reminded that he's a child that has made some mistakes and wants to change. He deserves that chance. And if I can, I want to help. Reading about his passions made me see him more as a person than just another student with problems." So that pilot study has led us now to develop and soon launch a much larger scale randomized controlled trial. And this trial has two very important purposes. One is to confirm the positive benefits for kids, to be really clear about what those benefits are for students. And the second is to learn how we can work hand in hand with districts and counties across the nation to integrate this procedure into their existing and diverse processes for bringing kids back from detention facilities into schools. We're doing that both in Oakland, in other Bay Area districts, and in Chicago, and in Milwaukee, and in discussion with a number of other partners. The goal of that, then, is if we can confirm that effectiveness and learn how districts can own this process in order to use it for their kids, that it can then become a standard aspect of how districts and counties bring students back into school following periods of detention. Now, it's not just justice-involved youth for whom school can be a lonely or threatening or unwelcoming place. A California statewide survey found, I'll get to that in just one second. And let me put that up first then. Found that 4 in 10 kids in California reported not having one positive relationship with an adult in school. Like, what are we doing? This is awful. We know that this is about the most important factor for kids. One ethnography in Pittsburgh described this idea of being known by an adult in school is ordinary magic for kids. It's the single strongest predictor of kids' sense of belonging in school is having strong relationships with adults in school. So how can we create schools in which all students truly and deeply and authentically belong? As we think about this, we think about how can we elicit greater support? How can we create the systems and the practices and the relationships that create greater support for kids from teachers? Where else are there particular populations of kids who face particular challenges? Where else are kids not seen and invisible? Where else are kids put in a box, seen in a kind of a stereotype? We're working, and where else might an intervention like this then help kids succeed? We're working with a variety of populations now to try to adapt this practice for them. We're working with ELL students transitioning into high school in Salinas, California. We're planning work with foster youth and how they can elicit more support from the adults in their school communities. We're working with refugee students, students of Syrian and Palestinian background in Germany, who face challenges in integrating in German secondary schools. And we're planning on work with kids who face substance abuse challenges, how they can elicit greater support from the educators whose job it is to serve them. What's a population or what's a child in your school who could benefit from such an intentional and structured practice as this? I think that's a question I'd like us to sit with a bit as we transition.
So in closing, I'd like to invite you to our breakout rooms. We're going to break out into 4 different areas of the room to give detailed information on how you can build this kind of partnership in your city, in your county, in your school district, on your campus. I'm looking forward to talking about 12 hugs and fist bumps. 12 hugs a day is the mental health wellness that every human being needs. If you don't get the 12 hugs, we already know you're a little off balance. Make sure you get the fist bumps. Thank you.
How about a great round of applause for Hattie and the panelists? I think you would all agree it's such an important topic, and a topic that sometimes we kind of turn our backs on in the business that we're in. But it's absolutely critical in terms of saving bodies and souls of young people. So God bless you all for the work you do. I just want to give you a little update. There's going to be a bit of a break now. You can visit the exhibitors. Hopefully, I'm going to say there's some refreshments out there. Troy, I hope they're out there. The refreshments. And then we're going to go right into, after that, after about the 45-minute break or however long it is, we're going to go into those concurrent workshops. There's about 7 workshops, and then there's an eighth workshop that the retirees are going to. So enjoy yourself for the next few minutes, and we'll see you a little bit later. Thanks, guys.
If you want to stick around and ask questions, we'll be here for a little bit after this is done.